How many of you remember what I spoke about last week? Does anybody? Holler it out if you remember what the topic was. Very good. Very good. You all get gold stars. Well, I'm going to talk about the same thing today, only different. Exactly the same, only completely different, maybe. I call it our fundamental crisis. What do you think that is? Holler it out.
Loss of faith in ourselves.
Anyone? Anyone else?
It's a huge list.
All those are part of it. But I think engagement is part of it. I think it's our disconnect with each other.
I was going to say that.
Well, you should have. You should have.
I knew that.
We all know that. Our disconnect with each other. All of the challenges that we face in our human life, and we're supposed to face challenges, but virtually every one, I'm sure there's some exceptions, but most of them are enhanced or exasperated because we aren't connected with each other. I heard a lady, PhD, I can't remember her name. I listen to so many people and read so many things, I can't keep track of all the names. And she had a concept. She gave a talk, and she talked about this being connected and how necessary it was to the human life experience. And she said it's like life rests on this table. And for us to have happiness, well, let's stop there for a minute. Happiness. Defining happiness. Every definition that I have found that makes sense to me is that happiness is dependent entirely upon and equal to the quality of your relationships with other human beings. Nothing else really generates happiness across all cultures, all belief systems, everything. Your relationships with other people are determine the level of happiness you experience in your life. So this lady doctor, she talks about this happiness of the human life experience. It rests on 4 columns. And I agree to a point, but when we get to the point I disagree, I'll tell you about that. But these 4 columns, these 4 pillars that support the mental and physical well-being of humanity are all about relationship and connection. One of those, the first one she talks about, is our intimate relationships, our intimate personal relationships, whether that be physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, or even philosophical intimacy. It's a necessity to having happiness in your life. And this we're on the right track when it comes to that. This hugging we do every week. Each one of us has an energy that surrounds us. Some people call it an aura. And when you get close to someone and embrace them, those energies combine. And the scientific fact is that when those energies combine, the chemical makeup within your body shifts and changes and adjusts for the better. And we do that every Sunday here. And you'd be surprised, well, maybe you wouldn't, at the men that have a problem with hugging. It's very homophobic and may attack their masculinity. Not the case here. And I love that. And that's a very important part of our service. And I hope we never lose that capacity amongst us to embrace each other and exchange that aura. And every one of us, without exception, unless the person didn't take a shower, feels better after a hug. Another pillar that holds up this table of well-being and happiness for humanity is our social relationships, our friendships, our work relationships, community, building community. We don't call ourselves a religious church so much as we call ourselves a spiritual community. And all of us are in the practice, work on the practice, is expanding that community and participating in that community. The crisis wranglers, our food for Noah, the way we greet the people that we're around and we work with and we spend time with. We invest in those social relationships. Another pillar that holds up this table of well-being for us is people get a lot out of joining clubs and organizations for a collective, an in common purpose or interest. It gives them a way to work with others for a common goal or about a specific area of interest. And it allows camaraderie, team spirit. It's a very necessary part of having a balanced relationship menu within our lives. The last pillar that the lady talked about was our relationship with every other living thing, nature, plants and animals, humanity throughout the world. To engage in that in some way, to be aware of it, and understand that we are part of that. Those are the 4 pillars she talked about. I agree with all of those, but I think she left an important one out. And that's the relationship that we have with our Creator, with our source, with Spirit, with God. However you believe. Some believe God is within in all things. Others believe God is somewhere else. But whatever medium you use to develop that relationship, whether it be meditation or prayer, contemplation, the importance of developing and participating in that relationship with the unseen. I believe that's key to finding happiness and satisfaction in our lives. There are other mediums in which we might contact with the unseen, with our spirit, with our source. Music. Music goes beyond vernacular or language. I'm going to share a story with you. Many of you are aware that at least one day a week, I'm part of a little band called Take Your Medicine. And whoever's available, we get together and we play at various Council on Aging Day programs throughout the county. Sonoma, Healdsburg, Oakmont, Santa Rosa, Sebastopol. And I was over in Sonoma one day. And not long, I've been playing over there, I don't know, 5 years maybe. And not long after I started playing, I was singing, and I finished a song, and this man got up. He was in a power chair, a power wheelchair. He got up and walked across the room, put his arm around me, and he said, "That's the best damn music I've ever heard." As an entertainer, you hear that all the time, compliments about your music. But I looked around, and the staff was just standing there with their mouths open. And come to find out, this man, his name's Bob, he's since passed away. Bob had not spoken a single word for 5 years previous to that day. He had not gotten up. He could get up out of bed and sit in the chair and go to the bathroom, but he had not walked across the floor or touched anyone or hugged anyone or spoken a word for 5 years. And the song was, "We ain't got a barrel of money, side by side, through all kinds of weather. Doesn't matter if the sky falls, as long as we're together." That's why I do that. And I'll keep doing it forever, as long as I'm able. There's a doctor, his name is Gabor Mate. Some of you may have heard of him. He's had TED Talks, fabulous speaker. He's just a medical doctor, but about 30 years ago, he delved into a particular facet of the human condition, and it's about nurturing. He wasn't nurtured as a child, and he later discovered as he had children, he was busy working, and he didn't nurture his children, and he saw the results of that, so he really started studying it. And if we look back several generations when the typical family unit was different than today, family, nurturing, that connection was different than it is typically today. Our requirement to work so much just to survive in today's economy, the price we pay is we don't have the same level of connection. We don't provide the nurturing for each other in our family units that we used to, and it's a cultural thing. And he goes on for hours with supportive information and data to support this thesis that he has. And one of the things, I'll just cite a couple of them. One of the things is the United States. 350 million people, 7.5 billion in the base there. We've got a little less than 5% of the population of the world in this country. We consume more cyclotronic drugs. Did I say that right? Cyclotropes, that's it. That's the word. Thank you. No sense being ignorant unless I let it show, right? Cyclotropic. We consume more of those drugs for depression and anxiety than the rest of the world combined. What does that say about our sociological connection, our physiological connection that we have with each other? Today, we're all aware that our young people that come back from the military service, the rate of post-traumatic stress disorder is off the charts. Never been this high. And he says that and I'll try to get through this because he explains it eloquently, and I'll see what I can do. Years ago, soldiers always, well, all times, soldiers experience horrifying experiences. But years ago, when culture was a little different, this family connection, this connection with each other's, with your siblings and with your family, was very strong because it was part of our daily life. Much weaker now. And when people go into the armed forces, they are I call it crash conditioned into a connection with their fellow soldiers. You live together, you fight together, and you die together. Right, Marine? And that is a necessary conditioning process for war conditions. It truly is. Because when you're out there and people are shooting at you, I can tell you from experience, you forget why you're there. All you forget, all you are, all you know is your buddies. You take care of them, and they're dependent on them to take care of you. And then when you come home, you are removed from this family that you were conditioned to be part of. Where is your support system? The only connection that you have is with some shrink somewhere who you don't know or trust. You're back to that place where it's me against the world, how you grew up with very little connection with family, very little connection with community. It's me against the world. And there these young men and women are, again, pulled out of their community, pulled out of their families, and it's then against the world. This connection thing, it is so important. And I think we're on the right track at this little community. Amen. We hug each other, we embrace each other, we engage with each other, we engage with our community. But I think we've still got a lot of work to do. We talk about our spiritual awareness helps us transcend some of the negative things, the hard things, the challenges of life. I think we're well on our way to enlightenment, being aware of what's going on around us, understanding more than we did a month ago or a year ago. But I'm going to challenge you maybe a little bit. I think fear runs rampant right in this room. And I'll give you some examples. I'm going to read them. I think there are many people who are fearful of the insanity of the world governments. I think we are fearful of the violence in our schools, on our streets, the violence demonstrated by our police departments and the good guys. I think we have fears right here in this room about a financial crash. We all know it's when and not if. I think there's fear in this room about the condition of Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, welfare, community assistance. I think there's fear in this room about the coming condition of health care, health insurance. I think there's fear in this world about, in this room and in this world, about the disastrous weather that can lie before us. And I think there's fear of being alone. Now, I don't know, I see a lot of heads wagging. Did I leave anybody out? I can only think of one thing. That can assist and help each one of us get past, transcend, deal with, overcome fear. And that's each other. Trust, community, connection, engagement. We're all working on it. And we all got more work to do. But remember, through all kinds of weather, what if the sky should fall? As long as we're together. Doesn't matter at all. We have each other. And so it is. Let's sing Imagine, shall we? Maury and Sherry, thank you again.